privilege to have you amongst us today to discuss, explore, and learn on marriage and couple therapy. Before we move on to the session on couple therapy, I invite our principal, Dr. Juliet CJ, to address the participants.
Good evening, everybody. It is really a pleasure for me to be here today to witness this inaugural session of couple therapy, the virtual workshop on couple therapy. I believe this is a very important topic for any mental health professional. Today, if you look at, relationship is the key to any association. I did not actually, yesterday we had some of our alumni who came down to our college, School of Social Work, Roshni Nilaya, and when they came in, I was thinking of the bonding that they have with our college. And these were the batch from 1974-76. The batch had come, and they had come to establish Dr. Olinda Pereira Memorial Center, a center in the name of their principal. The principal was the then principal of School of Social Work Roshni Nilaya, Dr. Olinda Pereira. That means it is 44 years of association of our alumni with the college. So this is where we need to understand the importance of bonding in our relationships, be it in the society or in the family. And today you are going to focus on couple therapy, and family is the basic unit of the society, and a stronger family means a stronger bonding. And this is very essential in today's nuclear family system, where bonding is becoming weaker and weaker. So I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Sebastian Perumbilly for being with us, for spending your time, and for being the resource person for this session. Thank you very much, and we look forward to further collaborations with you. I am happy to meet all the participants, the mental health professionals, as well as students, our own alumni who are present here. Happy to have all of you, and I wish everyone great learning during this time. Wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for encouraging us to be here for the workshop, as well as with the kind words that you rendered to us. So over to you, Dr. Sabi. We are very much eager to listen to you and to spend this next 10 hours of the workshop.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Rosa. Thank you, Principal. We'll see all of you. Hi, welcome. Good morning from this place. I'm in Connecticut. I'm in the state of Connecticut, which is kind of about 75 miles from New York City. And I've been here for a very long time. And it's so good to, I know some of you from my previous interactions, and welcome to all. What I'm hoping to do tonight, this evening, sorry, for you this evening, is to talk about the first module, and I'll be talking about 4 distinct areas for today. And I hope that we will have time. Please, Rosa and Jennifer, there will be questions, so probably we will let me know about those questions. So if you can give me a kind of a little alert when it's about 20 minutes into the end of the session, please, we can stop there and create space for questions. And I hope that maybe more than 20 minutes, I would say. So, yeah, great, excellent. And if you have any questions, please hold your question and write it or ask towards the end, because I may be addressing most of the questions. If not, of course, we will have time for the questions. It is my understanding from my interaction with Rosa, Jennifer, and Wilsey that there are students in the group and also practitioners as well as faculty members. So it's kind of a mixed range of groups, which is great, which is good for us to have. Maybe we'll have different types of questions coming from the group. My presentation is based on my 16 plus years of clinical experience in the United States. and also my academic teaching and research in this particular area. I'm also a family therapist, a couple therapist, and I work with a lot of high conflict couples. And that's an interesting group of people. Again, I haven't had any experience working in Indian context, although I studied in India for a long time. All right, okay. So I'm going to move on to the presentation section. Let's see. Can you see the screen, Jen? Rosa?
No, no, not yet.
Not it, sir.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay, I don't know why it is not happening. Okay, let me just do it again. Press it now. Please bear with me. How about now? Yes?
Not it.
Oh, that's not good. Sorry. How about now? Is it better? Can you see it? Yes?
Yes, sir. We are able to see the screen.
Full screen, right? Great.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. So let's start with the, yes.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, we are able to see the screen, but not the presentation.
Oh, you're not seeing the presentation. Okay, sorry. I don't know why it is. Sorry. Wow. Present now. Better? Hello?
Yes, sir. We are able to see.
Oh, great. Excellent. Thank you. I'm so sorry about that. I don't know why it's okay. So let's start with I'm going to talk about 4 areas. So again, start with the objective for the evening. I'm going to talk about intimate human relationships from a systemic perspective. Most of you are familiar with that. I'm not sure all of you are not or not. So what is intimate human relationship like from a systems perspective? And talk about couple therapy as a distinct field in mental health. And when we talk about couples, we need to also understand what human attachments are. Of course, most of you are familiar with that. But again, I wanted to bridge gaps if there is any gap at all across the participants in terms of their knowledge and awareness about these. And I will talk about the theoretical frameworks to understand how people choose their mates or partners, that kind of process. So the family is kind of, let's start with the family. As the principal mentions, an important unit in the family system, in the human system. So family is a very complex structure consisting of an interdependent group of individuals. There are parents, children, grandparents in some cases. So there are a group of people with a shared sense of history. They have a history together. They have some sort of emotional bonding, some degree of emotional bonding. Maybe some of them very close to each other. So maybe some conflicts going on across, those kind of things. And then also they devise different strategies to meet the needs of individuals and family members as a whole. So again, they have a history, emotional connection, and also they do different things. They say, for example, they get up in the morning, make breakfast for each other or for the individual. They cook, clean, all those kind of stuff. There's a lot of activities going on in the system, in the family system. Family is a system. Again, I'm talking about from a systemic perspective. I am a family systems person. I'm a systemic clinician, systemic psychotherapist, which is kind of different from psychology, different from counseling. So again, our whole focus is on the system. What is a system? A system is consisted of several parts, several interrelated parts, which influence each other through feedback and work towards a homeostasis, which means balance. There's some sort of balance that happens. Say, for example, car is a system. A car, most of you may have a vehicle, and that vehicle is a system. Many parts come together, engineered or designed in certain ways, and they come together. When they come together, those parts become a system, a unit. So a car has steering wheels, doors, engines, carburetor, all a bunch of things. Again, independently, they may not function as a system, but again, when they come together in certain design, they function as a system. Like, for example, us human beings, we are a system with different sensory receptacles and the different functions within, and then we come together and we call human persons, again, a system. So it's always a system, and a system has a balance always. Sometimes it goes off kilter, it loses its balance, and then again, it has to regain. Say, for example, family loses one of its members through death, or the person leaves home to work in another country. So every exit from the system or every entry in the system, like for example, a child is born into the family, that's an entry into the system. So exit and entry of members kind of upsets the balance in the system, homeostasis in the system. Then people have to regain it, and they find it humanly, I think, in an interesting way, we regain the system and we move on. We human beings adapt. Just before the sessions began, Jennifer and Rosa and a bunch of us were talking about how COVID brought us all to this kind of newer possibility of this, kind of virtual platforms. So I speak to you from the US, you are all in different parts of India. So that's a new system. And it was kind of difficult in the beginning when people were forced into those virtual systems against their wish. But now we are used to, we have adapted to that system. And then we have some sort of homeostasis most of the time. But when the technology fails, then the homeostasis goes up. So it's kind of it goes off. So those kind of things. So there is always balance and off balance. So those systems consisted of parts. System has wholeness. As I said, family is one system, one unit. Car is a one unit. A system has organizational complexity. It may look simple for an outsider. When you look at a family, you think that you know everything, pretty much everything about that because you know the people there. No. It is much more complex. What you see from an outside perspective or even inside perspective is kind of different because there is an organizational complexity and there is interdependence among members. And these members come together to function in certain ways. They execute certain tasks. For example, I have two little girls here, my daughters, and also my wife. So we function differently, and we have different tasks in the family. I cook most of the time, and she is busy. My wife is busy. So again, sometimes she cooks. So again, there are different tasks we perform in the system. What really makes a family system is not the members in themselves, how many people they have, but how they interrelate with each other. That's the exact part of the relational perspectives. Again, how does this particular system function? That depends on how people interrelate, how people interact with each other. We talk about patterns and dynamics of interaction, how we resolve conflicts, how we create moments of intimacy, how we address challenges from outside the family, how we address challenges from children. There are different tasks going on, different ways of interrelating within that system. Family as a relation system is a task-oriented force. There are specific functions in the system. Look at your own family. Some of you may be cooking, some of you may be cleaning, some of you may be taking care of different things. Like, for example, my wife deals with a lot of, if you have a vacation, she deals with that. If we have any complex issues, she works at Yale University. So again, there are different things that she does for home. So and also how we solve problems. So there are specific functions in the system. and there are different ways of managing household. And every system has also external boundaries and internal boundaries. External boundaries in the sense that we don't allow everybody to walk into a home. We may allow some of our relatives, in-laws, all those friends, sometimes to our family system. They are not always in other words, we regulate the boundaries around our family. Everybody cannot just walk in. So there are external boundaries, and also there are internal boundaries in the system. Internal boundaries in the family system, in the sense that internal boundaries between children and parents, right? We do not share everything as parents. We do not share everything with the children. Say, for example, how we are sexually intimate with each other. We don't share that information with our children. How we resolve certain financial struggles. We don't share all that information with the children. We may disclose something in an age-appropriate way. So there are internal boundaries and external boundaries. And there are also, the system is comprised of many subsystems. Again, that's kind of one of those family therapy things. Like basically it's coming from structural family therapy. I don't want to get into that for now. But again, family system is very complex. There are many subsystems within. There are couple subsystem, like two couple members, whether it is same-sex couples which form a family or heterosexual couple in most cases. Couples, like for example, in my family, my wife, Rachel, and I, it's a couple subsystem. We have our own stuff going on. We have our own ways of interacting with each other. We have our own protocols and rules and roles we have created in the course of time. And there is an executive subsystem. Executive subsystem could be couples most of the time, parents most of the time, meaning say those who decide different things for the family. So if you live in a multi-generational system, maybe elders could be part of the executive subsystem, or even couple themselves can be. If it is a nuclear family where couple members live with their children, in that case, couple members become executive subsystem. And there is also parental subsystem. Parental subsystem means basically their responsibilities towards children. So that subsystem, how it functions in relation to children. Those are important things. Again, most often, couple subsystem could be parental subsystem also. In some cases, there is a presence of maybe a grandmother or grandfather or somebody who's staying at home, or it may be a nanny could even sometimes part of the parental subsystem. For example, for us, we have a nanny. She is here full time for us, and from almost 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the evening. That's kind of she's part of the parental subsystem. She's not a parent, but she assists parents. In that sense, she's part of the parental subsystem. And then finally, there's a sibling subsystem. Like children have their own subsystem going on. They have their own ways of playing with each other. They have little secrets among themselves. They have fights among themselves. They negotiate among themselves, both in the presence of parents or couples, or even outside of them. So again, so the point of the whole thing is, again, couple subsystem, couple subsystem is just kind of intimacy and connection with each other the couple members have, executive the decision, allocation of resources and stuff. And there's a parental subsystem and sibling subsystem. All those are different ways of understanding the complexity that is unfolding within the family system. Each system is embedded in multiple relational systems. Basically, kind of, we know that. It's a much broader topic. I just want to quickly go through it in 2 minutes. So most of you are familiar with that. But the reason why I'm doing all this stuff is to kind of contextualize the course in a way so that you'll have the basic background, the concepts, before we delve deep into the couple systems. So there are individual and families. We are individuals embedded in families are simultaneously embedded in the following times. For example, we live in COVID times, 2020, which is different from 1980s or 90s. And so time has a history, and the global context have an impact in the way we understand, we live realities. And there's also biological factors, psychobiological factors, the temperament, my personality. So each person's temperament, personality also has an impact on the system. And then also there are various external contexts in terms of you work in a university or college, you work in a service center or a kind of counseling center. and you may be interacting with the people from different strata of the society. So there are different things. And Bronfenbrenner talked about, I think most of you know this, kind of talks about, we are part of a microsystem, and I'll talk about each of them: mesosystem, exosystem, macrosystem, and chronosystem. What is mesosystem? And basically what it says is we are part of many systems, not just the family system alone. Family is only one system we are part of, but we are part of many systems. And then all those system has its own roles. Say, for example, I'm a professor, and when I go to the university, my role is not that of a father, not that of a parent, not that of a husband, but my role is that of a professor, an academician. So academician functions in certain ways, and there are norms and rules in that system. So each system has its own rules. Think about your own rules. Think about your own different systems that you're part of. Maybe in your family, what sort of rules what kind of role do you have in your family? What kind of role do you have in the place or the system that you're working in? So all those rules and roles and kind of norms shape the way we develop as individuals and families. For example, microsystem is the immediate environments. Most of you know this already, but again, we are part of many microsystems. My family is a microsystem. Microsystem is the immediate environment in which a person functions. Most of the time. Say, for example, I'm home most of the time, almost 20 plus hours a day these days during COVID times. But before pre-COVID, I used to be home only about maybe 12 hours. So those because I'm part of many others. So there are many microsystems that I'm part of. And also children also, and we are all part of many microsystems. Then there's kind of mesosystem, interrelationship or linkage between various systems. So like, for example, I have a fight with my wife at home in the morning, for example, and then I'm stressed out and mad, and I'm going to my office. Not now, I'm not going to office now, but I go online for the meetings and stuff. And then, so whatever happened in that home microsystem may carry forward to the new system that I enter into. Also, for example, you worked outside in your office settings or in your university settings, a lot of faculty fights or ego issues or kind of challenges that you go through from a students or student community. All those may have an impact on you, and when you move from that university system to your home in the evening or at home, that may have some sort of repercussion, some sort of spillover effects from those kinds of. So the microsystems are always connected, in the sense that it kind of carries the effect from one to the other. Then there's an external exosystem. All of you know this. We are part of external, like for example, my children. My children are part of my home. But my office experiences, I'm working in my office, and a lot of challenges going on in my office. And when I come back stressed out from my home to my children, and all those my stressor from all those spillover effects, as I said earlier, all of them may affect my children. So they are not indirectly in the office, but again, they are exposed or experiences that they are not directly in the office, but that experience of my dad's, I'm dad for them. So dad's stress and all those things will affect them in an indirect way. So they are not in the office, but again, they are affected by me, who was affected by the office. So, and also the macro systemic factors, we know this stuff. We are constantly impacted by macro systems, which kind of political conditions, national policies, culture, other bigger factors beyond our control that's happening in the society. Like, for example, in the US, we are all worried about, most of us are worried about the election that is coming up. And most of us are tired of, that's my political view. I don't want to talk about politics, but again, so there are a lot of stuff happening outside my home in the political realm, and that has an impact. That has an impact, again, what's happening in the state of Connecticut where I live. That has an impact on me. And like, for example, if the whole internet service is shut down, I don't have any control over those factors. So again, those are other factors, macrosystemic factors. So there are a bunch of things like that. I'm going to, and the chronosystem, lastly, the chronosystem is about the time, the evolution of external systems over time. For example, people grew up in during certain times have an impact. I will tell you a quick story. I had a friend of mine. His name was Mr. Ray Lapointe. He died. That's why I'm using his full name. Ray was a man. He was born in 1920. When I came to the United States many, many years ago, he was one of my mentors. So he grew up during the Great Depression time. If you remember the Great Depression, if you have heard about it, that's kind of late 1920s, 30s. The U.S. went through a depression, economic depression. Many people lost their jobs, a lot of suicides. So, institutions and financial institutions kind of caved in or broke down. So people did not trust the institutions anymore. So Ray would not trust banks. I met him in the 90s. So even then in 90s, like 60 years after, Ray was about 85 years old at that time. Even 60 years after, that still had an impact on him, although the US had moved so forward from all those Great Depression time at that time. So again, the year that we were born, all those things will impact the way people live and function. For example, grandmas living with the family may have their own worldviews, may be impacting the place where they live, the way they think about things. And for us, people who are, I'm 53-year-old. I was born in 1967 in India. So again, those experiences kind of impact me. My early socialization, my study in Bombay, and all those things will affect me for the rest of my life. So again, all those things are part of our system. So I'm going to end it for a few seconds. Can you? Okay. So we can have maybe about a quick for a few seconds kind of questions. Any questions so far? I will spend some time at the end also. Any questions about family system and how the complexity of the family is unfolded, and how we are part of many subsystems like sibling, parental, all those kind of stuff, and also other multi-systemic factors. Bioecological, like microsystem. Any questions about any of these so far? You can unmute yourself and speak if you have any question. Does it make any sense at all? That's my, yes? No? Okay, cool. All right, let's move on to the next. Again, we'll have more time at the end, of course. We have about more than almost 1.5 hours more. Okay. Rosa, can you see it? The screen?
You can see the screen, but not the presentation.
Oh, okay. That is like a challenge. This is the interesting part of this is okay. How about now? Is it the same? Rosa, can you see it?
It's fine, Seb. We can see it.
It's fine.
The whole screen. Okay. So I gave you a kind of quick version of family systems, and the couple system is part of the family system. So I wanted to place couple subsystem, or I'll call it system now, couple system within the context of family, if they are associated with the family. Otherwise, we can just keep it as a couple system itself. So I just want to give you a sense of couple therapy. How couple therapy, we'll see a lot of interesting factors about couple therapy as we move along. Again, couple therapy is it's a very distinct field. In most of the universities and places, couple therapy is considered as kind of a, they club all of them together in the context of family therapy or individual psychology. That's not how it has been developed into a much clearer and a distinct field. So the field of couple therapy has flourished and developed into an independent branch in mental health, especially in a systemic orientation. It's kind of very specific branch of knowledge. The field has its own journals, its own theories. So say while family therapy has about 8 theories, 8 approaches, and I think couple therapy has about 13. So it's kind of much more evolved in the US, at least, much more evolved field than family therapy for now. So couple therapy, I just want to give you a quick sense of how the evolution of this couple therapy, first of all. I don't know about the Indian context. Again, marriage counseling group, we had from the 1930s, or in the US, of course, in the 1930s. In India also, I think early social workers contributed to the understanding of marriage counseling and couple counseling and all those, and psychologists also. So the marriage counseling, it started as a kind of theoretical. Theoretical means no theory at all. It didn't have any specific theoretical formulations. Usually it was 1930s on in the United States until about 1963. It was practiced by service-oriented professionals. They were not trained in mental health. Like, for example, all of you are trained in mental health or getting training in mental health. Most of them were kind of clergy or the priests or spiritual people, or elders in the community, or nurses, or doctors. Those were the people who would give counseling. So suppose a couple members have a trouble, like for example, my parents, when they were alive, when they had trouble, they would talk to the priest. They would go to the local parish priest, and then the local parish priest will come to our house. Or again, the local parish priest was not trained in mental health at all. But again, they kind of helped. They were good people. They meant well. They had some experience in life. All those things helped them. But again, as the complexities began to be much more intense, people began to seek the help of professionals. So in the US, we see, especially from 1931 through 66 almost, psychoanalysts, they were the pioneers in that field. Psychoanalysts began to help couple members. So they had the psychodynamic principles, all those principles they would use to understand members of the couple subsystem. They gave them counseling, or in those times, organ therapy. So practiced mostly by the psychiatrists. So look at the distinction here. They are much more professionally trained in the field of mental health. Psychoanalytically trained, or basically. So I don't know about the Indian context. Who does psychotherapy? Who does help to the couples, and what kind of background do they have? And then from the 1963 on, we find, especially 1963 on, we find family therapists coming together. People who come with a systemic orientation, as I said earlier today. Like family is a system, it has different parts, stuff. So again, people trained in those kind of disciplines, especially in the United States, started working with the couples, working with families. Again, they were primarily focused in family interactions rather than the couple interactions. Couple interaction was only part of that. And now from 1986 to now, about 2020, we find an enormous progress in the way couple therapy is understood. So not as part of the family, not trained by the not serviced by the analytically trained people, but again, people who are really focusing on couples. That's what they study. Like, for example, now in our program, there are specific internships associated with high conflict couples. Again, there are specific. So during that time, what happened to us, existing theories from psychoanalysis and from different places, general systems, all those, and family therapies, got really refined. And we found some extensions and diversifications and integration of. Sometimes we look at multiple theories, not just one theory. If I have a client, for example, if I have a patient, we will be looking at that case from multiple perspectives. Again, there are different sequencing. I will talk about that at the last session, how we can sequence multiple theories, because one theory may not capture the complexity that is happening in the family or couples system. So again, we need to have a integration of multiple theories. So from 1986 on, we see a lot of development in theories, integration of empirical research, a lot of research, couple research going on. And also there's a gap in the US, for example, we talk about scientist practitioner model, meaning to say, as all of you know, there's a gap between in the last 90s and 1990s and 2000s. Clinicians went on their way. They said researchers don't have any clue about what's going on. Researchers said, oh, clinicians are crazy people. They do what they want. So there was kind of gap that existed. But again, of late, we are seeing, especially 2010 onwards, we see most of the universities are aligning themselves in a way. We want to bridge the gap between clinicians who are practicing out in the field and also academicians and research scholars. So that all of clinical researchers, all of them come together. So there's much more of an integration. Research practice gap is somehow getting reduced as a result of all that. So kind of those are some of the new changes. Why is the couple? So you may wonder why the couple therapy is important. Often, you know from your own experience, couple therapy, couple issues are at the core of many family issues. Say, I can tell you many examples of that, like when the couple subsystem falls apart. Like, for example, when the partners cannot agree with each other, they cannot talk to each other, that couple subsystem breaks down, we see many symptomatology, symptoms developed in children. Children having trouble at school, children having temper issues, children having all sorts of challenges. Again, most of them could come from the breakdown that happens to the parents, who are also the couples in most cases. Most of the mental health challenges for adults and children also often stem from relationship challenges. Say, for example, a couple of weeks ago, there was a tragedy that happened to one of the Indian couples. Couple members were fighting with each other. They were separated, and then he was kind of, the husband at the time was so so upset about the whole thing, and he went and stabbed his wife in her workplace many times, about 16 times. And then again, people do crazy things. I'm talking about an extreme things. Again, people who are depressed, people are getting into addiction, people get into all sort of infidelity and stuff like that. We'll talk about tomorrow. And intimate partner violence. Most often, all those things happen as a result of. Most often, what happens is a result of the breakdown in the couple subsystem. So we would say about almost 2/3, about over 67% of clinical work that we do in our families in the United States, most of them come from couple issues. Couple issues, they cannot relate to each other. Their issues may be coming from all kinds of places, but again, when that couple system breaks down, we see symptomatology all over the place. Often people seek couple therapy for many reasons. I don't know about the Indian context. Maybe you can tell me about it. People are emotionally disengaged with each other, or they diminish their commitment to each other. Especially we see that in long-term relationships, especially, it's kind of interesting part. Some of us are married recently. Some of us have been married for a while. I've been married for a while. And so as we go along, what brought these two people together? This is sort of, it gets cold in some ways. It kind of, the excitement, the romance and all those things wanes or withers away. That's the nature. So emotional disengagement and diminishing commitment level, those are the realities. That's why. And sometimes people come to us because of the power struggles they have. A lot of issues. Who has more power? Who makes more decisions? Who controls others? Who controls whom? Those kind of things, are power struggles, could be part of that, especially among couple members who are employed. Both of them have resources. Both of them have financial resources and all those things. So again, when there are power struggles resulting. And also sometimes couple seeks therapy because of the stability. That stability that they had is affected. Say, for example, I develop an affair with somebody outside. There are more channels. I'll talk about that tomorrow, how the affairs and infidelity can be threatening the system. Often infidelity is kind of not just a simple thing, not about a sexual problem. It could be about many complex other problems. So we'll talk about all that. So because sometimes couple therapists just, they look at it in a very shallow way, but again, it's much more complex. So threat to the stability and security of relationship, when it happens, people seek treatment. or problem solving and communication difficulties. That's kind of often communication difficulties. That's what brings people most often to us, or jealousy that one has for each other. Extramarital involvement, as I mentioned already, or their values change, their roles change. They're more involved in the children. The husband doesn't like it. Husband feels kind of neglected by the wife. Wife thinks that he's not as involved as he should be. So all those kind of role conflicts. What's your role as a parent? What's your role as a son? But sometimes people would say, well, my wife is she's sharing everything with her family, with her mother, with her father. There is no secrecy in our family. She goes and spills over everything. He goes and tells everybody about everything. Or husband would say, well, or the wife would say, oh, he's spending most of his time at work. He's not at home. He is working 16, 17 hours. He's traveling. I really wonder about his commitment to me. He gives me money also, of course. He gives all those kind of things again, but he's not there. In some cases, intimate partner violence or abuse. Again, there are certain protocols around it. We cannot treat intimate partner violence in couple therapy if it is intense. There are certain parameters I will talk about in the next few days. And most generally, people seek therapy to reduce their recurrent relationship distress. And like, for example, during COVID-19, what I see in my couple field is that people are losing their jobs. So two source income becomes one source income. So again, socioeconomic realities hit. And currently I have a case. And she's worried about her husband because she says, my husband is out of work for the last 3 months. And we are digging into our savings now. But again, we cannot go much longer with that. She's okay with that stuff. She says, my husband, he's not actively looking for jobs. He's just simply sitting at home. He says he's stressed out. He says he's helping her with the kind of child rearing or child care and all those stuff, but he's not actively seeking out. And she says, I'm so stressed out. I cannot carry this. There are bills to pay. There's mortgage. There is this, that, all those bunch of things. I feel exhausted. I don't know how to talk to him about it. When I talk to him about it, he gets mad. He blames it on so many other factors. So the point is, he's not taking personal responsibility. Sometimes, again, reducing recurrent relationship distress. Or in some cases, people seek therapy to enhance relationship satisfaction. So people are doing okay, but they think that they could do some better work. So again, they actively look for relationship enhancement because they value their relationship so much that they want to improve. Because I would say, from my own experience, like, marriage is such a great blessing when two people are connected in the best way they can be. Again, it's not always hunky-dory kind of thing. It's not always peaches and candies all the time. It is hard. It is challenging. At the same time, most of the time, people are securely related to each other. So again, there are many factors that brings people to couple therapy. So again, my question for you is, why do you think people come to you? What are the common reasons why people seek couple therapy? People come to you. What are the common challenges that you see in your work with the couples? So it's kind of questions I'll ask you in the next 2 minutes. I'm going to end this in a few seconds. So again, there are some, I said that from 1986 on, we have a shift that's happening in couple therapy in the field. We see re-inclusion of the importance of the individual. As family therapists, we began only, historically, we paid attention to the families. That's what's happening in the family that is distressing the couple, or what's happening in the couple relationship that's distressing as a unit. But again, we lost kind of the importance of the individual within that relationships. Individuals, challenges, personal and professional challenges. We also, it's important to acknowledge the psychiatric and psychological disorders of the individual members in the system. So again, we have to work with psychiatrists and people who are clinical psychologists who are really trained and medications in some cases, especially to deal with the depression and all that kind of stuff. Because to stabilize the system, we need to have interdisciplinary approach, and we need to be open to inputs from the field of psychology, general mental health, and neurosciences. Again, a lot of fascinating research coming from field of neurosciences. how the neuroplasticity and all those big factors, and some of our old assumptions that we had in the couple therapy and family therapy and individual psychiatry, all those are going away in some ways, interesting ways, because of these new information, new research informed information coming to the system, and also much more complexly developed theories, theoretical development, clinical practice development, and empirical research. And all those things are happening in the last 10 years plus. So it's a lot of fascinating, cutting edge stuff happening in the couple therapy field. And I will be talking about all of those, most of those, in a summarized way in the next few days, because there's so much to study about it. I've been studying this for the last 15 plus years on these newer developments. Okay, so I'm going to stop it here for a second. Okay, any questions so far, people?
So may I?
Yes, please go ahead.
This is
Mathura
Mathura
Joshi, yeah.
from Goa.
Yeah, yeah, great. Welcome.
I work with children, adolescents, and families, and mainly children with developmental disabilities. So the families who come to me mainly are with the high distressed couples having a child with disability, and disintegration or the disengagement of the couples. The reason is a diagnosis of a child with developmental disability. So that is where they actually approach, because they see that one partner is not involved, or the divorce or separation because of the birth of a child or diagnosis.
A child with special needs in this case. Very, very difficult. Yeah. Right. Oh, thank you, Madhura Joshi. That again, yeah, that's another great example for the distressed couple. You're talking about one of the partners is not on board with the acceptance of that reality, the diagnosis, and the stigma associated with having a child with disabilities in some cases, or other kind of abilities, as we say, strength, and also kind of resources. Sometimes when all these kind of happens, caregiving responsibilities go higher, and it could be emotionally exhausting. So yes, thank you for sharing that example. That can be a great example for a place for couple therapy, how they can come on board together, and how they can deal with this kind of resources related questions, and also information about the diagnosis, what it means. In some cases, some cultures, I'm sure, and even in the United States, some diagnoses are harder for people to accept when they realize that my child has a special need. And we have a lot of resources in the community. In spite of that, families, their own family members may segregate them in certain ways or not involve them. Again, children may not involve other kids. Like children could be children don't know most of the times what's going on. So like, for example, in my neighborhood, we live in a neighborhood we have about 6 or 7 families very close to each other. And the children are pretty close to each other, but there is a special need child. And the children kind of segregate. They think that this child is different because they don't know any better, right? They are little kids anyway. So they're trying to make fun of the way he talks, that kid talks, and the way he walks. It's kind of very hurting for the parents and the communities. Again, thank you, Madhura, for that example. It must be pretty hard for that context in Goa as well. Yes, thank you. Anybody else? What brings people to therapy in your context?
May I go ahead?
Please, go ahead, please. Yes.
Yeah. I think few of the things like I can think are in India, it's when it comes to marriage, it's not just the couple whose viewpoint is considered, but it's the whole family. So most of the time it happens that maybe the couple doesn't know each other, or they aren't acquainted well enough, and even when the couple gets married, they don't have to just look after their own needs, but also the family needs. And many a times, because they are forced or whatever the case, each partner is loyal to their own family of origin. Even that leads to a lot of dispute between the couple.
Absolutely. That's a great example. Thank you. And what's your name again? I'm sorry, I didn't.
My name is Isha. Sab, you taught us. I'm
Isha.
from Christ.
Hi, Isha. Hi, welcome.
Hi.
Good to have you with us. You're right. Absolutely. The whole family, the involvement of the whole family is a challenge because it's not just the couple alone, right? The dad of the couple, dad of the husband, or mom of the husband, mother-in-law, father-in-law, all those kind of influences. In some cases, Isha, they may not be even living with them, the couple, but they may have an impact, right? They may be in the next town or but again, the impact in terms of how much money they should spend on board, how they should raise their children, how should they live their life. All those things are so extra familial kind of impact is also very hard for people, especially the other partner. So those are definitely challenges. Of course, yes, family of origin is kind of it's a blessing, and also it could be a huge challenge. I don't know about you, most of you, you know. Okay, thank you, Isha. Who else? What else brings you to? What else brings couples to your sessions? To you? Take one more, and then.
May I?
Yes, please. Deepthi,
My
right?
name is my name is Deepthi, and I'm in Bangalore. I studied in Roshni Nilaya, and
Aha.
yeah, I have been dealing with two couples, newly married couples, and the common issue is the difference in personality traits. So the husband finds the wife very emotionally needy. So, and the wife complains that husband solves every problem. And he looks at problem logically. There's no emotional involvement. So that's where the discord is, and the fights escalate from there. Yeah. So I have two couples right now whom I'm dealing with. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Deepthi. That's a very
Yeah.
challenge right there. Very emotional, needy wife, according to him, his
Yeah.
interpretation,
Yeah. Yes.
and a logical husband from her perspective. So again, it's kind of interesting, right? Isn't it interesting when people come together? They are, as Gary Chapman and people, some researchers would say, when you are in love, you are not really thinking right often, right? People don't know even each other. They are drugged in love. And then when the drug is kind of goes away, that its effect goes away, then people wakes up. People wake up to reality in some cases about it. It happens a couple of years later, maybe after the birth of the first child, the reality sets in. Oh man, we are in trouble now. Those kind of things happen. The realization, but that time, most often, people think that we are stuck, we cannot get out of it. Those are because of the cultural kind of stigma or kind of expectations. People kind of stay stuck, and we'll talk about that in the next few minutes. Actually, thank you, Deepthi. Good luck with that. Of course, you may get something, some ways of dealing with those situations in the next couple of days. I'll be talking about some of those things. You're welcome. Thank you. Yes, we have time for one more question because I'm looking at the watch. It's about segment.
Hello, can you
Go
hear
for
me?
Divya. Yes,
Yeah.
Divya, I can hear you loud and clear.
Hello, sir. One other partner has joined marriage these days, and that is social media. So I have this, the couple that I had to deal with, the wife apparently was addicted to social media, and so the husband felt left out in the marriage.
Yeah.
And that was my case.
Yeah. Right, exactly. I mean, thank you. That is becoming a universal reality now, like almost like a cyber addiction. We call it cyber infidelity now. We call it cyber. So it's kind of interesting coinage of terms. So again, these are the new realities. People are addicted to psychoactive substances and also other behavioral factors. So these are addiction hugely affects family system and the couple system in particular, especially about how much information they're sharing with the world outside, how much they are bad-mouthing their partner in the outside. This kind of the loyalty and all those things are really challenging in many, many different ways. So that's a newer challenge, which is it's a reality now. Now, especially, we can talk about that. I'll be talking about it tomorrow when we talk about addiction. Thank you so much, Divya. I think we are good to move on to the next, unless there is a burning question about this. We'll have more time at the end for sure. Again, I'm building the case for couple therapy, and I'm just so far what I talked about what is systemic perspective, kind of 101, and then what is the distinct, the specialty of a couple therapy. We are going to talk about it in the next few days. So couple therapy, before I move to the next section, is that it's a very specialized area, and that requires lots of theoretical kind of rootedness or grounding. Why do we use theory? I think, of course, theory is not just a fancy thing. Oh, let's put this theory and that theory. Theory is almost like a map for us. If you're for example, if you're a traveler, it gives you a sense of direction. When you have theory, when you have different theoretical backgrounds under your belt, there are about 16 different theories I said. These are different ways of looking at data. There are different ways of navigating through the muddled or kind of murky waters in some ways. Those are very important factors to consider. So without theoretical background, what happens is, again, sometimes some of the students would say, I don't want to know about theory. Teach me skills. That's really problematic because skills are built on theories. Without theories, there is no skill. Because skill is not, people talk about skills as if it is, I can just learn the skill and replicate skills. That's not how it works. That's why academia is very important for students who are in the programs. Learn your theories well, because they may not make much sense to you now. It may be abstract and boring and stuff. But again, those constructs are extremely important because they will give you a way to think about things. It's almost like an epistemological stuff. It's almost like a kind of, for me, it's like driving. It's like, suppose I want to go to New York City, just giving a simple example. I need to have a map of how to get there, which route to take, which shortcuts to take, or if there is a traffic jam in one place, now we have GPS. Again, there are different ways to navigate. So again, when you're stuck in the couple therapy, when you're stuck with the content, what the challenges, the topics that they bring to you, and without a theoretical rootedness, grounding in theories, you could get stuck, or we call it isomorphism. We get blocked in those systems. That's why theories or combination of multiple theories or sequencing of different pieces of theory. I'll talk about it the last day. How we can get out of that isomorphism. So theory is extremely important. All my presentations will be based on theoretical background because it will give you directions, and that is the basic component for skill building. So without theory, you are not developing your skills. Otherwise, you will just draw from your commonsensical experience. Commonsensical experiences are not useful. That's what these elders would say. That's what many of these untrained professionals would do. Oh, when you have a problem, talk about it. How do you talk about it? Again, the how part, that direction will be coming from the theoretical background, because theories are based on lots and lots of research and clinical research, both with the distressed couples and also with the healthy couples. So again, all those are part of the process. So let me just move into the next interesting word. Let me start with human attachments. Again, coming into couple therapy, it's all about attachments, right? You are born into a family, and you relate to your parents early on. We talk about early socialization. Early socialization is very critical part of couples relationship. Like, when I connected with my family, whether it is securely connected or insecurely connected, all those avoidant, ambivalent, all those kind of different patterns of interaction, the kind of connection, that has an impact in my couple relationship now. After this, I talked about toxin, or the drug of love is over. It kind of, all our early attachment patterns come alive, right? They become alive. Suppose I come from a family where I didn't experience any love, or my parents were not predictable. They were kind of ambiguous about many things, or there's an insecure attachments I had. I could not trust them. And that growing up, first 7, 8, 9 years of growing up in that system, that may affect me in my new relationship when I become a husband or a wife or a partner, when I become a parent, all those old, latent, and dormant sleeping patterns come alive. And often what happens in couple therapy is those attachment patterns from the past get resuscitated, as I said, in the new relationship. And we think that the problem is with my partner. My partner doesn't love me. My partner doesn't validate me. The partner I cannot trust. When you really get deep into those kind of factors, we realize that, especially when you do a genogram, when you do a family of origin history, when we look into the attachment patterns, we see those are coming alive. And the person is not even aware of that often. Sometimes there's some sort of awareness is there, but again, the intricacy, the complexity, the depth, and the subtlety, all those things are part of that thing. So again, so we need to definitely, if you're going to be a couple therapist, you must definitely understand the attachment patterns, how humans form attachments, all those things are. And I will talk about it more specifically in one of the theoretical models. It's called emotionally focused couple therapy. I will talk about that in the next. But let me start with this for now. And again, I need, I'm going to share it again. Let me know if it comes through. Nimi, Rosa, or Jenny, can you see this screen?
We can see the screen, but not the presentation.
No, the presentation. Okay. I don't know why it is kind of interesting that it is not doing it. There is something. We use a different system. We don't use Google here. Yeah. Okay, that could be part of that. Okay. Can you see it now, Rosanimi?
Yes.
Yes, great. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm gonna spend the next few minutes, and of course we'll have questions after this as well. Human attachments. Again, for some of you it may be kind of refreshing, but the reason I'm showing this is kind of to show, especially those who do not have background in this one, how important the human attachment is. Human attachment, not from your relationship with your partner or your client's relationship with his or her partner, but rather the relationship, the history of human attachments that he or she had. So human beings are pre-wired to develop emotional bonds with intimate others. Our early experiences become prototype. Prototypes means kind of, that's a blueprint in a way. That's how we relate to other future interactions. Our relationship with significant others influences crucially for the lifespan. Throughout our life, and as I said, again, we are constantly, that early models, we have a working models about who we can trust, who we cannot trust, all those experiences. Can I trust my partner now? He kind of violated this one time, or he did not care for me, he did not speak up for me in front of the mother-in-law or father-in-law. Those things, he cannot stand with, he doesn't stand for me. I don't matter in this relationship. All those kind of complaints couple members bring to the therapy session could also be coming, could be coming from early attachment patterns. Again, early socialization experience. Family did not stand up for that person. So human attachments are critical factors in determining the health and well-being of individual life and relationship. So for example, if you're a healthy person now, you can pretty much count down your attachments. Your attachment may be with a person, or your attachment may be with your spirituality, your attachment to your spirit, your divinity, whatever you have, the relationship that you have with that being, whether it is human or not. And most often, in this case, couple therapy, we are talking about the relationship with the partners that they have for each other, or the history of relationship. So attachments are crucial factors of our well-being. When people commit suicide, often, of course, depression, other mental health issues, and disappointments and failures, of course, all that part of that. But at the same time, most often, people become suicidal or people become homicidal in most cases when their attachment patterns are disrupted completely or they're lost. Often, most of the cases, that's our clinical experience and clinical research indicates. So when the attachment breaks down, a lot of bad things could happen. But when the attachments are stronger, people are much healthier in their relationship. They have reason to live. Like, for example, I want to live for the sake of my wife, for the sake of my children. I want to live for the sake of so and so. So those attachment gives some motivation a sense and meaning and purpose in their life. So again, attachments are critical factors. So as couple therapists, one of our jobs is to repair attachments, injured or disrupted attachments. So understanding the adult relationship requires understanding of attachment dynamics in an individual's life journey. So again, if you're going to work with couples, you definitely have to know the attachment history of that person, starting from childhood. Often genograms. Genogram is a kind of map of the family, 3-generational map use. Yeah, we can talk about it maybe another day, and third day or something. So again, you definitely need to know the history of the person. How do these people came together? What sort of background they have? Which kind of family they grew up in? What was the kind of relationship they had in their family of origin with their parents? Who put them to sleep? Who fed them? Who kind of comforted them when they were distressed, when they were children? And who did they turn to in the times of needs? All those things are important factors for us to consider to understand the history of this particular person. Both in the same ways, like both the partners. We need to know the history, definitely, and to understand their attachment dynamics, because they have that kind of has an impact in the present. Depending on life's experience, attachment patterns may change. Change in attachment patterns is possible through relational experience. That's kind of one of the coolest things about therapy, right? Suppose I come from a family where I did not have any secure attachments. I could not trust anybody in my family, and I had a messed up childhood. Don't be disheartened. Yeah, you can address all that stuff later on. Again, in the new relationship, that can be addressed through therapeutic interventions. Or, having maybe I had a bad childhood at home, but again, I had a great relationship with my teachers. I had a mentor, teacher mentor. I maintained that mentorship. I made it a point to, just giving some examples of some people. That particular person developed mentors outside the family, maybe an uncle, maybe an aunt, maybe a teacher, maybe somebody in the community. So again, the point is, if the attachment patterns are disrupted or it experienced some sort of injury consistently, a traumatic event that happened, that can be repaired. Those reparation is definitely possible. Repairing is possible. Many, many years ago in the field of psychology, we believed that those patterns will never be the same. It will never be healed completely. But we have research indicating that that's not true. Those can be repaired. Of course, it takes a lot of time and work, but it can be done. In other words, everybody's redeemable. Everybody. There is salvation for all in that sense. Salvation in a humanistic way, I mean, not in a spiritual way. There is redemption for people. There is kind of healing possible for people. So when people get into newer relationship with a therapist, for example, relationship in the therapeutic context, or in a new relationship that person gets into, or kind of community or network of friends or close friends they develop. Like, for example, in my town here, we have mothers group and fathers group. People can go and talk very confidentially about certain facts. There are networks that will help you alleviate or repair this kind of attachment disruption that happens. So those are good news. In India, of course, you can do a lot of different ways of repairing creatively. Again, therapists, how do you creatively help people find resources within the community or the family or in the spiritual places, repairing? Or can you lead some of the groups? Can you develop programs? Some of the students from Christ University are already doing that. I am in touch with some of them, and they are creating groups and stuff and therapeutic groups in very interesting way. I'm sure in other Roshni Nilayas and other places also. As couple therapists, family therapists, individual psychology students or counseling students, you can do so much in the community to create this kind of niches for people to come and feel healed and be part of a community. Attachment bonds refer to usually when we talk about attachment, we're talking about relatively enduring and emotionally significant relationship that is developed first between children and parents and later between adult mated pairs. So again, this kind of, we have we kind of bring our way of connecting to people, the skills that we learned from home. We take it to the schools and when we are children and we learn from it, we get a lot of feedback for that and we grow in that process. Again, those are important. So we talk about attachments kind of relatively enduring, stable. significant emotional relationship. According to, again, Ainsworth's kind of classical things, affectional tie is very important, especially early. She focused on Ainsworth, this classical thinkers, Ainsworth and Bowlby and all those people talked about, early child-parent relationships is a very critical part. And it says this affectional tie persists over time. That's what I said earlier. It even connects to the current relationship people are in. It involves a specific person with whom the child forms emotionally significant relationship, like mostly with the mothers or the fathers or the kind of siblings. They grow in that relationship. So what happens sometimes in relationships are when people get into marriage. Suppose I'm married to my husband, who is crazy, or crazy is not a professional term, who is kind of suspicious or paranoid about my relationship with my family of origin. That my husband wants me to disconnect from my family of origin. Because he thinks that that's too much. That kind of disruption can cause trauma for the individual. Again, we're talking about balance, right? How do we maintain connection with family of origin? Not totally disrupting connections, not overly indulging in that. So again, it's kind of, we're talking about balance. So that connection, affectional tie with the early experience must continue for the sanity in life in some ways. And often people go back to the family of origin, especially when they have a new child, because they need help of the grandparents to come and stay because you're busy working, you may not have child. So we need to have this kind of tie. So again, the point is the affectional tie persists over time, involving different people. Again, maybe your parents, maybe your siblings. So in times of distress, individuals seek security and comfort in the relationship with another attachment figure. Say, for example, I have a very bad day at work. I'm stressed out. I'm scared, or I'm mad at somebody, and I have to unload it to somebody. So probably, if I have a good relationship with my partner, my wife in this case, I will be able to talk to her without revealing or disclosing a lot of confidential information, right? I can share, I had a very tough day today. This is what happened. That kind of sharing with the attachment figure. In my case, it is my wife and very close friends of mine. Again, that can really gives you security and comfort. So again, that sort of unloading or unburdening is part of. That's why the marriage is such an important thing, because people would be able to share their burdens with each other. Of course, maintaining confidentiality of the individual and the names and stuff like that, again, so that somebody I can talk to. I have a therapist in residence in that case. Those kind of things are. So when individual experiences involuntary separation from the attachment figure, like for example, a parent dies, involuntary separation, or they decide, not parents don't leave you most of the cases, or they kind of disconnect with you in some ways. Then the person goes through a distress experience. So again, the couple members may be going through that experience. Like, for example, I have a case now, a couple case where she is very upset with her husband all the time because of many factors. She says her husband is not supporting her because she's also taking care of her elderly parent. And an elderly parent, and she had a very interesting relationship in the sense that, a lot of, it went through a lot of tumultuous stages, and it was not all that great, but now the parent is dying. She feels guilty for not caring in the past. And when she goes to take care of that parent, all those old memories and old fights and conflicts, what she could not tell her parent when she was little, now she takes it out. So she kind of stressed out about the whole thing and messed up in that sense. And she comes with all that trouble to her husband, and she doesn't think that her husband is not supporting her or doesn't understand her, or kind of, all those distress. So there is no person that I can go to share other than the therapist. Those, again, people go through different stages. So my question to you then personally is, all of you, is that, can you think of an attachment? I was talking about the importance of attachment figure. Can you think of an attachment figure in your life from your early period of life, especially, or during your journey as a student in a college or professional training program, or even now? Just think of an attachment figure in your life. What is special about that person? Can you write it down? What is special about that person? What do you value the most in that person? Do you remember any particular memory related to that person when you were in distress, how that person helped you? What do you recall? How have you maintained your relationship with that attachment figure in your life? Say, for example, that person was part of your adolescent years or early adulthood years, and most of you are still early adults. Um, how do you maintain your relationship with that person? Do you call that person? Do you visit that person? Do you talk to that person? Whom do you go to for comfort when you are hurting? When you go through difficulties or stressors or challenges that happened in your family or your partner or in your job, in your school, wherever, who do you go to for comfort? Who do you talk to? Other than your therapist, of course. Can you recall any distress that you experienced at the involuntary loss? That person died. Like, for example, my mother died about almost 20 years, 19 years ago. And then that is a significant attachment figure in my life. And I was in my 30s at that time. I went through it was a very difficult year for me. It took me a couple of years. Again, because that is the longest attachment figure I have had. One of the most trustworthy persons in my life. The one I could go to as an adult. I would call my mom. I was not married at the time. She would pray for me. All those again, there was an attachment figure, and a significant attachment figure. And when she died, it was distress. It was not just a matter of just a few days. It took me a couple of years to get over it. And again, that's kind of loss of an attachment figure usually takes about 1 to 2 years. That's kind of research indicating to us, especially in family therapy research, we have lots of interesting research about that. Attachment disruption. And that has the grief, the loss, all those things will have an impact in my couple relationship, will have an impact in my job performance. I know sometimes people will say, oh, well, just get over it. No, you cannot get over it. Those are long-term, persistent attachment, experience and history. So again, when a couple members, especially a couple members in their middle ages, they begin to experience these kind of attachment losses. So can you think about any of those things in your life if you have an experience? Again, I will ask you questions at the end. Again, just keep these notes as a side as we move forward. The propensity to form intimate bonds is considered to be basic components of human nature. Again, without attachment, we cannot survive. As I said earlier, human beings are always in some sort of relationships, attachments. Again, enduring patterns. Sometimes we depend on our Facebook accounts or social media accounts of friends that we find out. That's the way we struggle, especially COVID-19. Many times we kind of sustain our personal well-being on that kind of factor. Children as well as adults benefit from having attachment systems in place throughout our life. So again, attachments. When you leave your home, attachment as a child, think about your own. A lot of interesting research about this, right? Again, you are intimately connected to your family when you are little children. Then you almost reach the age of adolescent years. At the time, you shift to the attachment, loyalty sometimes from the family, maintaining it, of course, in some ways. At the same time, connecting to peers in the field. Of course, the adolescent psychology talks about all of those things. And when you're adolescents, and then when we grow into early adulthood, we move into kind of we settle down with the relationship with a partner. The attachment established there in those kind of new systems. So basically, what we are seeing is you shift attachments from stages to stages. From childhood, we move into the adolescent. Attachment shifts to the peers. From adolescent to adulthood, it shifts to our romantic partners or our other close friends. From there, we shift to children when we are in, or other place. Again, attachment shifting, the challenge, the transitions, but we never are without attachments. We constantly maintain the old, or creates new, and then maintain sometimes old. Those are patterns. According to attachment theory, once emotional security and stability develop through an ever-evolving workplace. I'm going to skip through it because we don't have much time for this, and you will. I'll send it to you so you will be able to. So attachment talks about anxiety. Every attachment has got two phases, Attachment has two dimensions. We talk about it. There's an anxiety dimension and there is an avoidance dimension. Anxiety dimension, in the sense that we are worried about being rejected or unloved by the attachment figure. Say, for example, I'm married to my wife. If I go crazy, if I don't contribute to this relationship enough, she may reject me. That may worry me. Or she may not love me anymore. I cannot count on her anymore. She may not care for me. She's growing cold in the relationship with me. She doesn't care for those kind of things. Again, anxiety dimension. This anxiety dimension may not be, as I said earlier, may not be from this partner. The anxiety dimension may be coming from my family of origin. All those unconscious processes, the dormant factors, the latent factors, the sleeping factors, which has been sleeping for the last 40 plus years, it may come alive in some ways. Again, anytime I go through certain crisis or crisis point or transitional points, or family transitions or personal transitions in some ways related to profession or personality or my life in general, lifespan, the anxiety dimension kicks in. It all connects to the past. And so that's why people need to be in some sort of relationships to process it, with a therapist especially. The avoidance dimension refers to the degree to which an individual avoids intimacy or interdependence with others. Basically, what it means is that, you know this already. Basically, what it means is that if my relationship with my family was not that great, I could not trust them, I could not depend on them, I could not rely on them, then those patterns may come alive. Then, then in my relationship, I may avoid intimacy with my partner. After having my baby, then I may not connect with my partner anymore. Sometimes it happens, right? After that emotion, the drug is over, the love drug is over, then people go into those patterns, avoidance patterns. People have problem with intimacy, problem with the sexual relationships, problem with their own partner. They feel insecure. They feel kind of threatened, or they feel, this may not be from the current partner. It may be from the family of origin.
Abby's password for Chromebook. Abby's password for Chromebook. Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Sorry about that. Somebody, there's a question. So all those kind of avoidance may come in as a problem there. So it's kind of people after that, first couple of years, people grow into this kind of avoidance stage. They avoid their partner. They don't feel safe with the partner, or in some cases, they don't feel safe with the partner because the early experience has that they cannot trust the family of origin experience, or they cannot. All those kind of fear of rejection. When I know that I will be rejected in the relationship, I will do it preemptively to avoid closeness. So we see that in social media often, and also Facebook kind of things, and people meet each other and then they fall in love with each other, and they are so crazily sexually active and amazingly connected sexually and emotionally and spiritually and all this bunch of things. A couple of years later, what? The whole new phase comes through, avoidance, because it may be coming from. So I had a student. He was in love madly and crazily, family therapy student, and madly, crazily love and relationship with a lawyer in New York, and they were crazy with each other. They were a great year, 2 years. They had a baby. Then, almost like a snap of a finger, something shifted. He began to say, "She's cold to me. She doesn't come to me anymore." Of course, the student was not coming to me as a therapist, as a clinician, as a client. But again, it's kind of personal. I kind of mentored him, and I referred him to a therapist. And so he said, she doesn't connect with me. She says she doesn't feel safe with me anymore. I don't understand. I'm kind of confused about the whole thing. I'm mad. I'm upset because she's the one person I love the most in my life. I mean, it happens. The point is, people go into that avoidance phase. And avoidance phase is often because of the early attachment disruptions that happened, or the unpredictable or insecure attachment they have had. There is more to share, but I'm going to end it here because of the time factor. So basically what I'm saying is, these attachment patterns from the childhood have also attachments in it may affect our adult relationship. Secure adults think the partners can be counted on to provide comfort and support. Ambivalent adults know that their partners are not predictable, and they tend to be obsessive about their relationship. Sometimes, you may come across with this. Partners, they call each other. Where are you? What are you doing? 15 times a day. They want to know exactly. They don't trust their partner. No, honey, I'm going to this place. I'm just being with my friends. No, you're not with us. Show me. Who are you with? This kind of thing. Show the picture. And I don't trust it. So again, this kind of incessant obsessiveness about not trusting the partner, or extreme jealousy. Oh, my partner is he is always with women most of the time, or she's always with men. She works in an IT field. I'm talking about couples, some cases. Oh, she always works. They spend a lot of time there, and she trusts her buddies, and they go for a drink together. Of course, not during COVID times. There's a lot of when I was in Bangalore, we were studying some of the cases there, and especially there's an IT hub, right? A lot of interesting factors related to that marital breakdown happening because of this kind of experience of jealousy of the partners, or fears of abandonment. She's gonna. I know sometimes some partners are afraid. I will not allow my wife to study. I will not allow my husband to study. Mostly it's kind of women. I will not allow my wife to study, because if she studies, she gets a good education, she may have more resources. If she has more resources, she may have a better job, or all those things are maybe good for me. But then she may find me not attractive anymore, and she may leave me. She may abandon me. Though again, all kinds of fears. Sometimes they don't even talk about it, right? These are fears that they entertain within themselves. They may be coming from their family of origin often, the abandonment, the sense of abandonment. So those may be kind of dealing with that kind of things is kind of factor. So in some cases, they distract themselves with non-social activities. They may not connect with their partner. Or in some cases, there may be an emotional distance. They may kind of they may not let the partner into their life anymore. This kind of happens after a couple of years of the relationship. A lack of intimacy, no sexual relationship, or less satisfaction in relationship, or shorter duration and commitment in relationship. In kind of they spend more time there. They become more workaholic. They avoid, or some cases they avoid all kind of social activities. So that we see all. I'll talk about some of these things. How all these attachment disruptions exhibit itself in different ways. I'm going to stop it here for now for questions. Okay, people. Okay. I talked too much, I guess. What are the questions? Does it make any sense for you? Let's take a couple of questions.
I had a question.
Sure, Isha. Yeah.
When you spoke about the issues why couples approach therapists, there were certain reasons that you gave, like power struggle, emotional
Yeah.
disengagement.
Yeah.
Are these like when a couple approaches for therapy, when they talk about their story, do we like try to understand their core issues, and do these reasons comprise as core issues? Is that how we go ahead with it?
Yeah, that's a good question, Isha. That's one of the things, one of the principles always you have to keep in mind is, yes, some of them. But again, you have to be careful about that too, again, because what they present to you, we talk about presenting issue, they may not always be the real issue, right? Those are the precipitating issue, or issues on the surface. So what happens many of them for the couples, a couple therapists is kind of, they lock into those presenting issue and they try to solve it. Say, for example, infidelity is a presenting issue. It is not infidelity is kind of, it's an issue, yes, but it's much more complex than that, right? So if the therapist locks into that and then tries to develop that treatment based on that presenting issue, then that could be trouble. So again, the emotional disengagement, all those things that I talked about, the reasons why people seek therapy is kind of pay attention to that, hear that. So in family therapy, we would say, unless you know the system enough, you cannot conceptualize the problem. If you cannot conceptualize the problem with enough clinical data, your interventions or the treatment protocols that you would be developing would be shallow. It may not be effective. It may not even address the core issue. The presenting issue may be a symptom of something much deeper. So the point is, Isha, is that do not get into intervention mode or treatment mode after your first meeting. I'm not saying that you do it. You are a great clinician. I know you from Christ. But again, pay attention to the session. Pay attention to at least for 3 sessions. I would say that's kind of protocol that we use in the US. Get enough about the system. Ask pointed questions. I will talk about that. What sort of interview questions that we need to have. So get a sense of what the issue is, what the challenge is, and then think about it from the clinical theoretical frameworks, as I would talk about tomorrow and day after and all these days. Then look at the issue from those systems, and then collaboratively create a treatment plan. Because usually people either jump quickly into the presenting issue and lock it up and develop treatment plan. It may work for a few days, but it will fall apart. Or therapists would just kind of think that, oh, I know this issue, let me just deal with it. Because therapists would project or assume he or she knows. You don't know anything about the system. I don't know anything about the system. I know many things about family therapy and but again, they're inviting me into the system. Once I'm in the system, I have to be curious and respectful and thoughtful and careful and strategic to get the data. So, one needs to have at least data for a couple of sessions before we start the intervention. So that's how. So assessment phase, clinical assessment phase goes at least for a couple of weeks, couple of sessions at least, depending on how long the session is. Isha. And of course, that is a great question.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome, of course. In other words, don't jump into the system quickly. Oh yeah, go ahead, Aisha, yes.
Yeah, actually I haven't dealt with couples who are under distress. I'm here mainly because of my PhD topic, which is adult children of divorce.
Yeah,
and
okay.
me, primarily what I understand when you talk about attachment, it's mainly the belief systems or assumptions that they have with respect to relationships. So I wanted to know what is a good way to tackle that or to try and address that when you're dealing with a topic like divorce, which is so stigmatized in the Indian context.
Yeah. You talk about attachment as belief systems. Okay. Yeah, it could be belief systems. At the same time, it is not just belief system in the cognitive sense of the term.
Okay.
Beliefs could be cognitive. It's also experientially related, right? For example, when I am with my partner, I'm saying I'm a wife and in this relationship, I cannot stand the way he invalidates me or kind of disrespects me. There's a strong emotion attached to it. And that strong emotion is usually connected to a family of origin experience. So basically, it's not a cognitive piece. It's a deep-rooted, entrenched, deeply painful reality of my experience. That experience are somehow codified and kind of, crystallized into kind of a notion. So basically, what I'm saying is attachment. When you study the attachment patterns, yes, pay attention to the belief systems, but also connect to them. When, in the sense, I would say, you seem to be very upset with your husband at this point when he says this. Does he remind you of somebody in your family of origin?
Okay.
Oh, he reminds me of my father. He was like controlling. He was crazy. He was an authoritarian dictator. So again, there is a notion, an experience with a partner, also deeply connected to somebody from the past. We talk about in object relations, we talk about all this kind of stuff. So those objects or caregivers from the past. So again, it's not just a cognitive thing, it's also an experiential piece. That's why we have to be careful in unearthing. And how will they talk about that experience? Only in the safe context of the therapy, where my therapist's job is to create that safe container where he can trust me or she can trust me. Then they will talk about that experience. Yeah, it happened. It reminds me that all of a sudden, when you create that container, they will say, oh yeah, I remember my dad that particular Saturday evening. He told me that I cannot go out anymore because those memories will unfold. Memories are kind of funny. When you create containers, those old files open up.
Yeah.
And then you can process it, because again, you're bringing insight to it, or you're bringing so many things that you can do. Again, I'll talk about in the next few days. So I would say attachments are critical components. It's not just cognitive notion, but rather there is a deep-rooted tip of the iceberg. Yes, cognitive, but again, there's much more deeper stuff going on down. Thanks, Aisha. That's a great question. Yeah, sure.
Dr.
We'll
Sir?
take one. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So when you spoke about the dimensions,
Yeah,
anxiety and avoidance,
yeah.
to my understanding, please correct me if I'm wrong, they are not that distinct as you mentioned. Uh,
Not. Yeah.
there's a lot of overlap because
Oh, yes.
in
Yeah.
avoidance, the
It's anxiety.
core is anxiety again.
Absolutely. Right,
Okay.
exactly. So it's not distinct in that sense. Again, for epistemological reasons or pedagogical reasons, for that we have to make distinction first. They're all connected in some ways. Again, at the core of avoidance, as I said already, there's an anxiety because I'm sure that if I get close to this person, um, things may be different. But again, at the same time, I'm not sure whether he would accept me. So I'm anxious about that. So my anxiety leads me in a preemptive way to avoid it. So when I avoid him, I have more power, right? I decide I don't want to connect with him. I was dating a person many, many years ago before I was getting married, and she was very close and all. And again, but again, she had a lot of the kind of the avoidance factors that I noticed, and I think that's really problematic. Again, I was a clinician myself. So again, sometimes avoidance is rooted in anxiety. Yeah, right. There's an overlap in that sense. Madhura Joshi. I'll take last question before we move into one of the coolest things again I'm going to talk about.
So this is Akila.
Hi, Akila.
Yeah, hi. I wanted to know, do people not have attachments? Is that possible? Because there are people who are not very close to either of the parents or sibling. So
It's a good question. Yeah, can people have a life without attachments? Most likely not. In humanly speaking, again, they would say, well, they may be attached to a device, they may be attached to a system, they may be attached to a non-human entity in some ways, yes. But without attachment, people do not usually survive. So sometimes people kind of, you're right. I may not have attachment with my family, with my parents, or with my. I may attach myself with the outsiders. There are many reasons why people do that. Again, if you are in a couple therapy field, you really want to know about why they are not connecting to the individual. What's the history? What kept them going so far and until this relationship? Say, for example, in my cases, like some of the cases that I work with, young adult, they came from a very insecure system. This particular girl, she was about 27 or 28 when I saw her. She said she got married when she was about 18 years of age because she could not wait until she was 18. And then because family was so horrible, there's a lot of sexual abuse going on, and dad was kind of crazy and stuff like that. So she could not get out in alcoholism, sexual abuse and a bunch of things. So she jumped out when she became an adult to somebody who came along, and then she connected. Again, there's always an attachment. It may not be with the family that he or she is living with, but again, there's always an attachment. If people say, I don't have any attachment, I would say bullshit. I'm sorry for saying that. That's baloney. You cannot. I mean, that person is not truthful in that case. Without attachment, it's very difficult for people to survive. And I'm pretty convinced of that personally myself in my clinical experience over the last 16, 17 years. People lie a lot. People would say, well, they may show that they are, but it is not always the case. So the point is, if they don't have attachment with their family or close-knit system, they may go somewhere else outside for the attachment.
So in this case, she had attachment with the person she got married or her friends.
Oh yeah, what sustained her was her friends, her teacher. Not teachers so much, her peers. Because she was experiencing all this kind of sexual trauma, and she didn't have the courage to talk to her mom about that. because she didn't think that, and she didn't feel that it was safe, and there was no therapy available. But again, she began to show cutting behaviors and all those kind of stuff, suicidal tendencies. Again, but she survived because of her friendship with her school peers, met, and then somebody came along when she was 18, whom she met over the social media, and then they connected. And it did not last long because she had coming from a very troubled system. But again, she moved on. I don't know where she is now. So people kind of shift, as I said, attachment from one system to the other to survive. When they lose everything, they self-destruct often.
Okay.
Suicide in most cases, yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Of course. I'm going to move to the last segment. Again, probably I may not finish it, but let's see what it is. It's an interesting thing. Okay. Can you see this the screen?
Yes,
no?
we can see the screen, but not this presentation.
That's so funny. I don't know why it is happening each time. Wow, weird. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay. Okay, let me see one more time. Yay. Okay. How about now? Can you see it? Yes. No? Oh,
Yes.
perfect.
Yes.
This is the second time is always a charmer. I don't know why it is kind of weird. Okay, that's good. Let's spend a few minutes on this one. Mate selection process. I'm aware of the time. Okay, during the transition from early adolescence to adulthood, we kind of settle down on a life plan. We have some idea about what kind of potential career we should have, or we have some idea about who my life partner is, and we kind of start thinking about how to have a family, and all those things are happening. So again, my question is about the mate selection process. How you select your partner? What are the qualities and characteristics that you see in your partner, or that you hope to see in your partner if you're not choosing a life partner? When I say life partner, a husband or a wife or spouse, or somebody with a long-term relationship. In your partner selection process, how influenced have you been by your family of origin? In what way do they influence you? In what way do your friends influence you, and your sociocultural settings, like your education, your profession? Sometimes doctors marry doctors, or lawyers marry lawyers. Those kind of, again, certain sociocultural settings. The point is, mate selection process is usually influenced by a multitude of factors. There are cultural factors, social norms, family expectations, personal experiences, spiritual orientation, and a bunch of factors. I will talk about two different ways of understanding how people choose their partner. Probably, I think I would say I will talk about just one today, and then the point is, mate selection or your partner selection doesn't happen quickly and easily. In most cases, we think that our families have a huge impact. Yes. At the same time, we see more people are choosing their partner. They're bringing them to the family. Like, for example, my niece just got married a couple of weeks ago, and she decided to have her own, friends. One of the friends, and she brought the friend to the family, and the family had my brother had a lot of issues with that. But again, they settled down, and then they supported. Eventually, they got married. So this kind of, again, mate selection process. Again, there are specific theories that are associated with that. And maybe I'm looking at the time, probably it's not a good idea to start because we're only about less than 14 minutes to finish. So I'm going to stop it here. We may talk about mate selection tomorrow. Just kind of so that we can take some questions as I promised. Okay. Back to the big screen, people. I think you have about 14 minutes. Again, I'm sorry that I did not. I'll start with mate selection process tomorrow. And the other bit. Okay, what are the questions? What are you thinking? What are you hearing? Rosa or Jennifer, anyone who's kind of okay. This is the time to ask questions, or share your thoughts, experience from Indian context.
Sir, this is Akila here again.
Yep.
I wanted to check, you were saying about this the same previous question as a follow-up question. Can people be attached to their work and appreciation for their work and get addicted to work and uh, that could be the attachment for them?
Absolutely,
If a
absolutely.
person has moved a lot and they, yeah, okay.
Absolutely. Again, we live in a different world, unlike in the 1980s and even 90s, right? There's a lot of people spend a lot of time with their work world, right? There's whether it is a kind of information technology field or engineering, whatever field that you work with. Again, there's a lot of connections that happen. Many times, people travel together, people spend time together, they know each other. Sometimes in the US, we talk about my work wife, my work husband, and those kind of connections. Again, there are a lot of, because it shows the amount of time and the depth of relationship people have with their professional colleagues. And that sometimes can be, not sometimes, that could be a great source of attachment system for them, where they receive caregiving. Their partners, their colleagues support them in their struggle, in their life journey, in all kinds of ways. That could be a therapeutic system for many couples. And those kind of allegiance or loyalty or connection or the history can be perceived as a threat by the couple partner, right? So you trust your friends more than I do. You spend more time with them. Even when you come back home, you don't spend time with me and the kids. You are busy with that life and this and that. So in other words, work life is encroaching into my. So to answer your question, Akila, yes, absolutely. And often, in a couple relationship, that's one of the huge challenges now. I would say one of the fourth challenges. First, second, and third, I will talk about tomorrow. Again, that's one of the fourth challenges, huge, because people spend a lot of time together. And those are sometimes, the work environment is so stressful, they have to come up with a problem or a solution, especially in the information technology field. They spend a lot of time together, the intense moments, that kind of close, intense intimacy may flip over to romantic connections in that sense. So fall in love with somebody at the workplace, developing affairs in the workplace. Again, that's one of the factors that I'll talk about tomorrow, affairs, understanding the affairs. Again, because they feel not about sexual connection. I'm not talking about sexual connection. It's only a small piece to it. Emotional safety people feel, or psychological support they feel. All those things could be really. So those are, in a positive way, Akil, I would say, those are attachment, good attachments. Yeah, and also could be a problem depending on.
Yes, could money also be the driver because they feel that they've achieved or it gives them that boost?
Yeah, I mean, depending on if you say more about what it means, like what I've seen is from my own experiences, like, yeah, money can be an attachment because it gives them power in calling shots in the relationship. So guess what? I bring X number of dollars a year, not you. Those kind of questions. So again, that gives me more power. That gives me more freedom. Oh yeah, I choose to go and travel. I choose to be with my friends because I need some break from the stress. I cannot, those kind of things. So money, that kind of power that it gives, that kind of rights and privileges in some cases it gives, can mess up we call it, couple relationship is an egalitarian system, an equal partner relationship. It can shift. Maybe a hierarchy can be formed. I call shots because I bring more money. You are sitting at home, sitting on your bum. You don't do much about it. You are just, what do? You just cook and clean, and you don't have to deal with the stress. It's like people do the mean talk based on this kind of the power, the source, maybe money, the power that it gives them. So Akila, I think that's so. But I didn't. Is that the question that you wanted? Does the money have an attachment that you should have?
Okay. Yes. That's
absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Again, in the couple therapy, we may have to challenge these kind of systems in some ways, belief systems associated with that. Sometimes men claim that's kind of traditional roles. Sometimes religion can also add some sort of throw a wrench in the system, in the sense. I would not say like, no, man. I mean, that's a complex conversation. I will hold it for now.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome, of course. What about others? We have about another 8 minutes more. What are the challenges that you're seeing? Does it make any sense at all these things that I talked about?
Well, I haven't started practicing yet, but most of the things I try to connect it with myself. Like, it's high time that I finish my master's, and there's a lot of family pressure for me to choose a mate. So that was a thing which was interesting for me. And then I have seen in my family, after a certain point, the excitement in the relation, it just goes off. So I was
Yeah.
trying to understand what exactly happens, like how or why does the honeymoon phase fade off. So I
Thank you.
I think I think going for therapy or couple therapy, it will give both the parties a better understanding of how they have brought up. This is something which needs to be more put out there for Indian couples, but still seems very idealistic to me.
Right. Thank you, Isha. That's right. Absolutely. That's a great question. I love this question. Hey, Christ. Of course. I think that is true, right? We have a lot of narratives or discourse out in the field, like, oh, you just get married, and I will get married to the most beautiful woman, the most understanding, or the most, a husband who I can trust, or give me resources. And so those kind of we romanticize marriage, right? We romanticize marriage. So also it's kind of, there are many reasons why we do that. Um, we romanticize marriage and we get into the relationship. And with that romantic notions, and sometimes media also gives us kind of all these notions of what it is and all. After a couple of years, as I said, the love drug or the seduction drug is over, then you begin to become real, right? The reality. And the reality is sometimes, another human being with a different taste and with a different temperament and different things and all those things that I did not notice before, I ignored, or my family did not pay attention to, or did not even ask about. I didn't even, all those factors may come in the face. They come up. Then what do you do? Then that's a struggle. Again, I would say couple therapy is all about accepting the reality, right? Accepting the reality. Because when I marry somebody, I'm also marrying a bunch of problems. That's a reality. I mean, that's a kind of given factor. Along with the great traits that they bring in there also. So then how do I deal with that in that system? The romance is, of course, part of, we can enhance romance in different ways. At the same time, those ideology, those kind of the notions that belief systems that we are told or we are talked to about, all those things we have to come to terms with that. We know that it's not real anymore. Then we become more realistically rooted and we begin to ask harder questions. And how do I make sense in the relationship? Those are the couple therapy. The purpose of the couple therapy is basically to kind of help couple members deal with the reality and help them in their process. Are they going to be together for a while, and why they want to stay together? At the same time, they may not have discovered many hidden resources within each partner. The romantic phase, they did not do that. For example, my wife, when she became a mother, we became parents, I found something that I never knew before. The kind of the resources. In other words, each one of us is like an inexhaustible treasure, right? When within the right relationship, when we are connected, securely attached, when we create that kind of system in a very trustworthy way, we begin to flourish, we begin to discover each other. That's the exciting part, right? I mean, it's not so much, that's a kind of new notion of romance. Sex is, yes, part of that, but again, it's not the whole thing. Sometimes people get disillusioned with the sexual dissatisfaction. Oh my God, my life is over. Oh my God, he's crazy. Oh my Lord. Those things are because we do not understand the whole person yet. But so that's why therapy helps you uncover or discover hidden talents or hidden resources. And then at some point after about a few, maybe a year or two of therapy, you realize this is not the person I married to. This is not the person I want to live my life with. this is not acceptable for me, then people make important decisions, right? That's a decision that comes from the person, and the therapist kind of supports the process or encourages the thinking about the process. Sometimes people put on lock. Mate selection process and social exchange theory, I will talk about one of the barriers and some of the excitements. So that's what I will share with you tomorrow. So I would say, Isha, it is a reality test. Yes. Sorry,
There is a
Aisha.
box.
Yeah, sorry, Rosa. Rosa, go ahead. Yeah. Sorry, Aisha was asking a question.
In the chat box by Miss Deepa. She asked, in Indian context, though the relationships are strained and one of the couple wants to seek therapy, want to sort out things, but the other partner may be reluctant to come for therapy. How do we go ahead with such things?
That's a tough one. Tough one means in depending on the, like, for example, in the US sometimes it happens. Aisha, I'll come to you in a second.
Yeah,
Aisha
yeah.
Charles raised a hand. So I think that is kind of a challenging situation in the sense that, for example, I want to work on this relationship problem, and my partner doesn't believe in therapy, refuses to go for therapy, doesn't want to do anything with it. So this kind of veto power that he has or she has in this case, what do I do? Yeah, I mean, that's why the law and all things. I'm talking about the U.S. context. So in that case, I can approach the, of course, I mean, depending on use all the resources and means that you can, like, for example, having somebody to talk to him, in an elder in the community or influential person or somebody, one of his friends or whoever is, influence him in such a way that he seeks therapy in some ways. If it doesn't happen, then I don't know. In the US, I'll tell you, I won't tell you what you should do or that participant is asking. I would say if there is a kind of embargo there, if it's kind of standstill there is no movement there, then I will have to take up the step in my own hand, and I have to advocate for myself. Maybe kind of separate. I'm not saying that you should do separation. I'm saying that those are the if one party doesn't want to move forward, what do? You're stuck. Either you can stay in the relationship or you can get out of the relationship. Again, I'm not advocating divorce or separate. I'm saying that person has to make the decision what to do next. That's what I would say. Again, therapy is a place where a person can unearth all these conversations, challenges, barriers, resources. The therapist may be able to mobilize or help the person understand or locate a resource that he has not even thought about before. Aisha, I want to take your last question.
Yeah, I wanted to know, since you were talking about, reality and mate selection and things like that, I just wanted to know, is, the idea of romanticizing or, putting your partner on a pedestal, is that linked to the, tendency to deal with potential rather than what you see currently or presently? So you deal with, this is what I think this person will be. This is what I hope they will be. Versus dealing with, what you see currently or presently in the individual.
I mean, I would say in that kind of context, couple therapy is very important. Both the parties have to come, because I can have a lot of notions about what my partner may be thinking or behaving, why he's doing that. That might be my notion. That's where both parties have to come together. He would say, this is what she is all about. She's all, I'll give you some examples tomorrow. So basically, both members have to come together and talk about what exactly the real issue is. Sometimes they don't tell you the real issue. They're afraid to tell the real issue. They will mask it or cover it with something else. So I think the therapy is a safe place. Both members may not feel safe in the beginning, but again, once the safety is reached, then you can really unearth what the real issue is. Otherwise, they can be fighting kind of shadow figures, which may not even be there. That's a reality is very critical. I will give you some examples tomorrow when we talk about infidelity, because infidelity was not the real issue. Something else was going on. So again, talking about, so the most important thing I would say, the last thing is, do I have the confidence and do I feel safe to talk about my real issue in this relationship? If that has happened, you won half the battle, because you bingo right there. You have diagnosed, you have located something. You work with the real issue. Otherwise, you'll be fighting the shadow figures, You'll be fighting shadows and it doesn't happen. Often couple members may not feel safe to say the real issue. That's why the therapy gets prolonged and crazy.
Thank you.
I think you're welcome, of course. I think this is exciting. I'm so sorry that we couldn't take all the questions, and we will get to it. We will dig into tomorrow. We will be talking about some of the mate selection process and also some of the core couple challenges that come to us: infidelity, affairs, intimate partner violence, addiction, and sexual dysfunctions. All those things we'll talk about tomorrow. Rosa and Jennifer, I'm back. Sorry,
Yes,
we're 2 minutes over.
So shall we wind up for today?
Yeah, I think it's time up, right? 2 hours, right? 7:30 to
Yes.
5 to 7. Yeah.
Participants, if you have any question, you can note down and we can discuss this tomorrow's session.
Yeah. Right. Before we start the session, we can take questions from today's spillover effects, right? And then I'll start with the mate selection and those main challenges in the couple therapy, like infidelity and intimate partner violence and all this stuff. All right, people. Is that okay?
Yes.
Good night. I have a meeting in the next few minutes. I have to eat my breakfast and get ready for the meeting. It's morning, 9:33 here. Okay. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Good night. Thank
Good
you.
night. Yeah, bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am. This is here. Some network issue.
Yeah, I think so. Might be a network.
Not able to leave the meeting. Okay. It was a good one, ma'am. I mean, very nice session.
Hope you will benefit another 4 days to Deepti.
Yes. Good start.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Can you hit the green button?
Hi, Deepti.
Diti is saying something.
Diti, you want help to listen?
Voice is breaking.
Yeah, not able to hear Deepti.
No, ma'am. I was just looking to leave the meeting, and I couldn't see where exactly it is. So I was.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am. See you tomorrow then. Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Diti. Bye.
Bye.
Can you stop the recording, Jennifer?
Oh yes, ma'am. Sorry.